I mean, at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're taking your most precious children and putting them into the care of strangers.
Yeah.
That's scary for any parent, but then you add a child who has a disability, so is more vulnerable. You know, if you weren't anxious, that would be weird.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just acknowledge that.
Hello, Kaya, and welcome, Wanju, to Kiind Conversations, your go-to resource for guidance, support and empowerment. I'm Teresa, Peer Navigation Lead here at Kiind, and your host for today. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that we are recording this podcast on the Whadjuk Budja, the country of the Whadjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present. Today joining us are the Kiind Peer Navigators, Sharon and
Hello.
Pauline. Welcome, ladies.
Good morning. Excited to be here.
Awesome.
Let's do this.
So, Pauline, would you like to start and share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Pauline. I am a peer navigator at Kiind. I have 5 children. I have a wonderful husband, and one of our children has a disability. So, I'm always looking for support and resources. And I think that this podcast is going to be really great for families. We're all sort of traveling a similar journey. And so, it's sort of good to get advice, and, it's like, you want to feel like you're not alone. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. Yes. And Sharon, do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Sharon, also lucky enough to be one of the peer navigators at Kiind, one of the best jobs in Perth, I reckon.
Exactly.
I have 3 amazing children, 2 are neurodiverse. And so I've been what I suppose you would call part of the autism community for about 15 years. So it's a real privilege to bring that experience to the role of a peer navigator and to share that with other families. And, it's a two-way street. We hope to, like to think that we're giving information, resources and support, but we get a lot back from the community as well. And I'd like to see that this is kind of an extension of that. So
absolutely.
Really looking forward to it.
In each episode, we explore the topics that matter most to parents and carers of children with a disability, simplifying the caring journey one conversation at a time. In this episode, we're going to be talking about getting ready for the new school year, which is,
Can be very tricky.
Which can be
It's
a
a
lot.
lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot, and it can be overwhelming and scary and stressful for everyone involved.
Yep.
Shall we get started?
Let's do it.
Wonderful. Little disclaimer to start with. We recognise that not everyone's school experience is going to be the same. But we hope that the practical tips we share with you today can help your child thrive this school year. And remember, you can always reach out to us at Kiind if you need additional supports along the way. So, Pauline, Sharon, as parents yourselves and as peer navigators who have supported many families navigating this journey, what are some of the most common challenges families face when starting or returning to school?
Anxiety.
Yes, definitely.
The stress, the build-up, that huge shift from sleep-ins. Everyone's kind of regulated, well, maybe apart from the parents who are like, when are the kids going back? But so much anxiety. And just as a kind of just park off to the side comment, I would like to take a moment just to acknowledge that there are going to be some families listening, some parents listening to this whose kids won't go back.
Yep.
That there are children with school can't. We are well aware of that at Kiind. We're holding those families in our minds while we're having this conversation. We see you. We know you're out there. but this is going to be about, trying to think about all the ways to get those kids who will eventually go to school there. But we're not forgetting you out there, you school can't families.
Yes, absolutely. And there's definitely another podcast in that topic on its own.
It's a huge topic, that one. But yeah, the anxiety, that's for parents and the kids. There's so many unknowns. And that, it might be starting school, so kindy, or it might be, going into year 3 where the academic pressures start to ramp up, the social pressures start to ramp up. It could be the transition to high school, whole different ball game.
Oh, yeah. That sort of nice warm cuddle that primary school is.
Right, where you've got a relationship with one teacher and only one teacher, not,
and then you're expected to be an independent learner.
That's it.
The next time you go to school.
Yeah. And who's the teacher going to be, and what classroom are they going to be, and what other peers will they have their friends with them? Who's the EA going to be? Is the so many things to worry about. So I think the pressure on parents to try and just dial it back, take a deep breath, and not pass that anxiety on to their kids is probably one of the first challenges. Stay cool, stay calm. It'll be all right. Breathe.
Yes. And I think also another big issue can be how do you deal with, any issues that are going to come up at school? Who do you talk to? Who do you turn to? What do you do if your child is refusing to go, or, what if they're having issues at school?
Yep.
That can be a problem as well, especially if you're new to a school. Every school is going to work differently. Even every classroom is going to work differently.
Yeah. And I imagine, all of us here, those first days that we all participated in, we already had a bit of an understanding of the school system. Yes. Imagine if you're coming from another country and the schooling system is completely different. How overwhelming that must be, trying to figure out what to do, where to go, who to talk to.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it must be very overwhelming.
Language, or could be third or fourth.
Fourth,
Yeah.
And the other thing I think can be really challenging that we need to acknowledge is that if the parents and carers themselves have a disability or a diagnosis.
Yes.
So if you are already worried about how you are physically going to get to school, how is it that you can attend those school meetings, knowing that there is a ramp or a lift? Are my neurodivergent needs going to be supported at school? Before you've even started the conversation about your children, that can be really overwhelming too.
I mean, at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're taking your most precious children and putting them into the care of strangers.
Yeah.
That's scary for any parent, but then you add a child who has a disability, so is more vulnerable.
Yeah.
If you weren't anxious, that would be weird.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just acknowledge that.
So thanks for sharing. And I'm sure a lot of you out there can relate to those feelings that you're having right now as we're preparing to go back. So I think now is a great time to start jumping into some practical tips for everybody. As we sort of spoken about, they might not be for everyone, but there's certainly some wonderful things to try. And even if we can share something with you that helps you to start thinking outside the square a little bit for your own situation, I think that can be really helpful as well. So I'm going to get Sharon to start. Would you like to share some things that have worked for you or for other families that you've spoken to?
Yeah. So I think, preparation is key. So, trying to anticipate ahead of time. So understanding, the school environment, having a connection with the principal, vice principal, right from the get-go, sharing reports, sharing diagnostic information, going past the school, pointing it out to your child, talking positively. Oh, look at the playground. If they already are at the school, trying to engage with peers during the holidays so they maintain those relationships. And, you can ask the school when they're putting together the lists for the classroom, can my child be with John or Sally, because they're close to them and they get on well. That can be a huge difference for a child. If a child's anxious, knowing that a friend is going to, meet them at the school gate and they're going to be able to go into the class together.
Yeah.
Being able to go to the school a few days before the term starts and go into the classroom and meet the teacher. And, it's just that sort of, I suppose, a bit of exposure therapy, really, just taking the edge off that anxiety by being able to see and imagine what the day is going to be like ahead of time.
Yeah.
And, it's really about trying to harness and foster really strong relationships with the school staff right from the very get-go.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that really good understanding that teachers have challenges in their work environment.
It's a hard job.
It's
getting harder all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, depending on the classroom, you might have 33 other students apart from your precious poppet.
Yep.
And, really having some empathy around that can be really good starting point for building that relationship with the classroom teachers and the EAs. So your EA is your education assistant. So they might be in the classroom supporting classroom goals. But then you also might have an EA that's supporting your little person's physical needs as well. So
Or
there are
social.
some... Yeah.
Yep.
So your education assistants or your EAs, good people to have a chat to if your child has toileting requirements, medication requirements. They're all part of the educator package.
Yes, and sometimes your child might have one education assistant or EA during the year, and then sometimes they might have several that they have on different days, or they might even have several in one classroom. So it's good to connect with all of them because they probably all will be working with your child.
Yeah.
EAs are the unsung heroes of schools.
Amen.
They really are.
Pauline,
Yes.
what are some other things that can be helpful while you're preparing for school?
Sure. I think things like social stories can be really great. I know families, may have them around during the school holidays. They may use them as like a bedtime story, going through, looking at new teacher, what my classroom's going to be like, even new playground. I think Sharon mentioned before, driving past the school during the holidays, and especially sort of a week or two leading up, pointing things out, using really positive language around school and going back to school. I think also it can be exciting, especially for little kids that are starting or, still in the early years, to go through the stationery and have a look what they're, going to be
That was my
putting
favourite
into
part
their
of school.
bag.
Yeah.
I know.
The bluey pencil box and the bluey pencil and the bluey sharpener and the bluey ruler. Do they still have that stuff? Or, or is it the bluey computer?
I think all of the
Does
above.
Bluey have a laptop? That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Sure it
That'd
does.
be a bestseller. But also, I think trying on uniforms.
Yep.
A lot of children have sensory issues, so maybe get something in place early if they need any modifications or anything done to the uniform to make it more comfortable.
And just on that as well, if your little person has a physical disability and maybe they haven't had to wear a uniform before, having a practice, wearing it at home, practicing toileting with the new uniform, if that's part of their journey, might be really helpful.
Yes.
Can they undo zippers and do all the bits that they need to do to be as independent as possible while they're toileting as well.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And maybe even things like, wearing the shoes for a few days to break them in a bit and, all that sort of stuff. Making sure the socks are the right socks and, all that. So the preparation is key.
Exactly. Even using the lunchbox, maybe having a picnic, taking their lunchbox along and their drink bottle. So, that it sort of makes it a bit exciting and, you're going to take that off to school with you and things like that. And, so, there are a few things.
Practicing opening the yogurt containers.
Yes.
There might be some challenges in the beginning, but, taking the lunchbox down the park, practicing taking things open so that they can try and be as independent as possible. Teachers absolutely do not mind helping with the yogurts. But when you've got 25 to 30 people needing help with their yogurt, sometimes it can be good to stand out from the crowd and be the person that can open their own yogurt.
Exactly.
And just, I think once the school term is underway, I'm really, really passionate about parents being involved with the IEP process.
Yep.
Yes.
It is just a complete game changer for a child to have that individualised plan, and the input has to come from parents to really make an IEP count, because parents are the expert of their child. And are going to be able to give the advice to the school around things like, toileting, or can they open food? Will they need help? Mobility issues, sensory issues, all of that sort of stuff. Really, for a child to have the best chance at success, it needs to be very individualised around their disability and how it impacts on them. So parents absolutely have to be involved in that process.
Very true. And I think you can also discuss it with the child as well. Like,
Absolutely,
is there anything that, if they've been to school and it's a new school year, is there anything last year that you found difficult? Have you got any ideas of, what we can help you with? And sometimes they come up with things that we just wouldn't have thought about. So
Absolutely,
I think, if they're able to contribute, that can be great as well.
Yeah.
So for the listeners at home who may not know what an IEP is, it just stands for Individualised Education Plan. It's a plan that is created around your child's specific needs, and this is why it's so important for you as a parent to have input, because this is about your kid and you're the expert of your kid.
Yeah, and I think just for everyone as well, that your individual school might have a different name for it, but essentially they're all the same thing. Mm-hmm. A plan to support their access to curriculum.
Yeah, and it's not just based on the curriculum. It's not just about learning goals. It is about how to support your child to get to those goals. So it acknowledges
Talk about well-being,
the disability, and how the disability impacts on your child, and what supports help your child. So it should be a full document, not just these are the things we want your child to learn. It's a how document as much as a what document.
And even for high school students, definitely getting them involved in the IEP process.
Yes,
but also
definitely.
to get them to create a little About Me page. When you get to high school, you don't want to be the different person. You don't want everybody to know what you need in class. So something discreet that they could write themselves, how to best support me. I think high schools these days, all of them have that sort of Moodle, Blackboard type scenario where maybe they could send their teachers a little bit of a blurb about them, what they might need, so that they don't have to have that conversation with other students.
Yeah.
Teacher will know that they need to be close to the door, or not near the fan, or, whatever that might be for them.
Yeah.
Great idea.
And don't take that quiet girl who's masking and put her next to the rambunctious boy to role model for him.
Yeah.
So, just leave her.
Yeah.
She's white knuckling it. Just don't add any more pressure.
Yeah, and I think that's a nice point. The IEP, the information that you're giving to school, what it might look like if the person is struggling.
Yeah.
Because I think from a teacher's perspective, you've got lots of little people in front of you. Sometimes I think the quiet people can be good, because you then got a chance to deal with the lesson and what's going on, and
and squeaky
dousing the
wheel
spot
gets
fires.
the grease, right?
Yep.
So and there will be there's always one at least squeaky wheel in the class.
Yeah.
And quite rightly gets the support that they need. But, Pauline and I talk to parents all the time who say that my child masks at school, is an angel, and then once in the car to go home, a meltdown ensues.
Yeah.
You see the effect of a child that's trying so hard to pass and do the right thing all day. And then, the parent will go and talk to the school, and the school say, don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they were delighting class
but
today.
it is important for the school to know that this child, while looking serene, is the metaphorical duck.
Yeah.
scrambling underneath, and so that their sensory needs are just as important as the child over there with the squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's a nice thing to have a think about as well while you're preparing, is that transition plan and preparing to go to school and then preparing what's going to happen after school. So in those situations, you're masking and you're holding it all in, and we talk about it a lot with families. When they get home, then they can be themselves and they're in their safe space, and it's very easy for us to say, but we've experienced it as well. But some little people don't even get home before that
is true
emotion comes out.
Yeah.
So you could bring some things into the car that's going to help them. There's a bit of debate on screen time, but if that's the way that your little person regulates, then why not pop the iPad in the car? Is it that they have a snack as soon as they get in?
Yeah.
Is it that we give them complete quiet time in the ride on the way home?
Yes. So no loud music and singing, and they might just need some quiet time, and even maybe something that they use to self-soothe and to calm themselves down, like a blanket or a teddy. You might want to, like you said, just bring that along so that you're sort of catching it, hopefully, before, the behaviour starts.
Yeah.
But very tricky.
And is it possible maybe for the siblings to get home another way? Because it can be also very stressful for siblings in the car, They can sort of kick off each other. Obviously every family will work to find a solution, but we see you families out there with maskers. We hear from you a lot.
Absolutely. And I don't know, Pauline, whether you've been through this yourself or you've spoken to other families, preparing if your little person has some medical challenges as well. I imagine that school are going to be talking through that, and you're going to be talking to school prior to enrolment if they're completely new.
Yes.
But are there any sort of challenges or hints you can give around care plans? So preparing them for their asthma care plan and sharing that information with school. Epilepsy, I'm just giving some examples. I know they're not all yours.
No, of course.
But is there anything that you can share with families around medical needs?
I guess it's a bit the same, you just try and be prepared and one step ahead. Normally schools will have you fill out forms. You need to have the medication in a bottle with the label on it from the chemist. So you can't just sort of take it in any random container.
Yeah.
So that's one thing is, I try and sometimes keep a medicine bottle from the last script when it runs out, so I can put it in there for school. Take it in. I've got the one at home that's still got the sticker on it, and I've got the empty one that I've put more medication in to take to school because they need that. Plus I need the one at home with the name and the details and everything on there in case I need to take that with us anywhere. And I suppose also checking any kind of dates. I normally put in my phone a little reminder, okay, medication is going to expire at this date, so I know I can be prepared and, make sure all the medications are up to date and things like that. We also have a profile on my child, and that has any medical issues, any diagnosis, also any plans that are in place, emergency plan. So if there was for example, a seizure, the staff know exactly what to do. I'm quietly confident that she's in great hands. I know what they're going to do. I know that if anything was happened, they're going to give me a call. So things like that. And, normally medication has to be kept safe, not just left in the school bag. Normally there's maybe a nurse, or it's locked in the office. So just definitely trying to keep, everybody at school safe, all medicines locked away. We've had with my family a few tricky issues with taking medicine, and sometimes school will really help you out with that. Working with the child to take medication and things like that. So, you know, if you are having trouble and you're struggling with children taking medication, definitely reach out to the school and, you know, they may be able to help with that.
Awesome. I think there's some great tips in there for families. And as I said in the beginning, it might not be a tip that's for you right now, but a little bit of a, you know, a thinking tool of where it might work for your family as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now the other thing we're going to chat about is building a strong relationship with your school. And we've probably already touched on a few of those things already, but maybe if we just sort of have a think about, you know, what are the things that we have learnt that can be really good around building a strong relationship with teachers, with school staff that can make a huge difference.
Yeah. I was always at pains this works in primary school, high school gets a bit more complicated, but to stay back at the end of the day and wait for, you know, the teacher to just take a breath, for all the kids to go and just touch base, you know, how were things, everything okay? Or, you know, get there a bit earlier in the morning to do the same. And ask the teacher what works best for them.
Yep.
Yes.
Are you happy for me to stop back at the end of the day? Is the morning better? Would you prefer an email? But, you know, going back to your earlier point, Teresa, about acknowledging that, you know, the teacher has to hold a lot of kids in their mind, and your child is your precious child, but, you know, acknowledging the role of the teacher, showing respect for their role. You can do that and advocate for your child, you know.
Absolutely.
And I think you advocate more successfully when you have obviously a respectful relationship. But those informal little chats are a great way to sort of stay connected.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. Yeah.
And I think it's that quick chat before and after school. And as you said, talk to the classroom teacher what works for them, because I know that some families have talked about a communication book that's really worked for them.
Yeah.
So the teacher after the school day can take some notes, share information with you. And I think it's good to start with the classroom teacher as well. EA is a great source of feedback for you, but making sure that, you know, you're chatting to the classroom teacher first and foremost.
Yep.
Yeah, and with that communication book, it can also work both ways. I think so. You might not have time in the morning to see the teacher because there could be 5 other parents, or you know, they're dealing with children. So, you know, if there's something that's happened in the morning that is worth noting, you can always jot that down, and you know, it's in the bag or it's in the file. You know, could even hand it over to the teacher, or the child hands it over, and then they'll know, okay, you know, there might be something in there that I need to read, and then they can take that into account for the day or the morning. You know, there could have been a meltdown or, you know, issues putting shoes and socks on, or, you know, which can create
Bad night's sleep.
problems.
I was going to say maybe no one at
sleeping.
home slept.
Yeah.
Missed breakfast. I mean,
So I think, those are great. And I know that there's also apps that schools use as well to communicate as well. So it can be online if they don't have an actual physical book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point as well, staying in touch with school as much as you can.
Yeah.
We totally appreciate there's families out there that do need to work full time.
Yes.
So it's keeping connected. If you can't be there for all of the pickups and drop-offs, if you're sharing that responsibility with others, that you can, you know, keep up to date with the school's communication system.
Yep.
I know some families also, more in primary school, but are part of the Parents and Friends Association. So they keep up to date with the ins and outs of school.
Yep.
You're a face on the school property.
I was in the P&C, then I was on the board, I worked in the canteen. And part of that wasn't just being plugged in, it was to give back, to say thank you.
Yeah.
Because when you find a good school, it's gold.
Yeah.
A school that's genuinely inclusive and is working hard to accommodate your child, it's nice to give back. But you're also on the ground, you're plugged in, you know.
Yeah, I think ways that I myself have tried, like especially with working, is take advantage if school has an open day beforehand. You or, there's, I think, learning journey days, or there's, morning tea for parents. If you can make it, it's a wonderful thing to be there. Can be tricky if you're working. So I also try and sort of have a little look ahead of the calendar and think, oh, okay, yep, I can go to a Mother's Day thing. I'll, make sure I've got some time off there. And and then also try and connect with the parents too, I think, to also see if we've got a WhatsApp group for our year, and just pass around a few messages, and that sort of helps you stay in touch too. But talking about appreciation, I in the past have, and some other parents as well, I got a good idea from some other parents that got the teacher and EA's coffee order, and I dropped the kids off, got an order, bring it back, and they've just loved to have a coffee. And I appreciate not everybody can do that. I've also baked some cookies, baked a cake and taken a cake in, just every now and again, just to say I really appreciate
Thank you,
your support and the hard work that you're doing. So it did, or it can just even be a handwritten note. Popped in the school bag. Thank you so much for your support. And I think they really appreciate that as well. So
can I just go back to the point about connecting in with other parents? One of the things forgot to mention earlier, but I found was just so incredibly useful, was when my son, whose disability comes with some behaviours, I wrote a letter when he started and handed it out to all the parents to introduce him and to let him know how hard he and I were working to try and help him be a good classmate. And it really set the tone going forward, and it had such a wonderful impact on his relationships with the other kids. He got invited to all the parties. He wasn't, and people came up to me and they were really grateful, and they actually said they really appreciated the opportunity for their child to, spend time with somebody with a disability. And I can understand some people might feel a bit uncomfortable with that, but I just think, getting on the front foot and introducing a child, and like I say, it won't be for all children with disabilities, but some of our kids, do come with the squeaky wheel. And my son was one of them. And just that letter of introducing and saying, we're really, really looking forward to our journey. And again, so again, it's about respect for the teacher, it's about respect for the school, but it's also respect for the other families. And developing those really positive early relationships.
And building inclusiveness into the community. Building knowledge into the community. And I can see that, being bold and, sharing that information, because it might be hard for some people to do that. I feel like it's giving that little person a different label. So what the kids might be coming home
the naughty kid.
The naughty person.
That's it.
Is
Get
just
in
someone
front of
who
it.
needs a little extra support.
I
love that.
Thanks.
Another way to build capacity, and I think it goes along with sharing exactly what you were talking about, is, if our little people have, a quite rare condition, you can't expect staff to know about that. So sharing your knowledge, sharing what that might look like can be really helpful as well. And that comes back to the about me and IEPs and those sorts of things that we can share with school, because I think that knowledge can be really powerful as well.
I agree.
Where this leads to now is, what if these things aren't helpful? And what if our little person starts school and they're having a few struggles? What are some ways that we can prepare for the challenges that can arise? So let's talk about strategies for addressing issues. Would you like to start with this one, Sharon?
So this is why you've spent all that time bringing coffees, cookies, working in the canteen, building that relationship. It's obviously because it's a great thing for your child, but if it comes to the point where things are challenging, having that initial good relationship is going to make it so much easier going forward. Look, when things are challenging, and I have had this experience personally, those relationships were everything. And, again, start local, stay with the school, talk to the teacher, talk with the EA, talk to the principal, keep it local, keep it focused on the people that it's directly relevant to.
Mm-hmm.
If that goes nowhere, and it can, then there are steps you can work through. You are likely, if things are getting really complicated, to be invited to a meeting, sort of an IEP-ish like meeting, and at that there will usually be the teacher, maybe the EA, school psych, principal or vice principal. Sometimes it's a cast of thousands. It can be quite intimidating. You can bring your people along, your partner, a friend, an OT, a psych, somebody that your child is working with.
Yeah, just, having some support.
Yeah.
And, it could be they might be able to take some notes for you that you can look back on.
Yep.
It might even be, if you've got a little one and that you can't, don't have a babysitter, they could, push the pram or entertain the baby while you take notes and listen, or, even just emotional support, sitting there and listening as well, because it might be things that you miss, or, just have someone to bounce something off of, and, so you don't feel so alone. And yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the education department is aware of the fact that sometimes resolutions can't be found within the school, and so in response to that, they have created a parent liaison unit. So they have some amazing people right there, bang, in the department that you can call and talk to and say, look, we've hit a bit of a roadblock here. We're not going forward, and The fact that these people are inside the department does lend some clout to the process.
Yeah.
And we're happy to share that information at Kiind.
Absolutely.
Yes, and there are advocates out there that if you're not feeling confident, or you're not sure you're going to be able to express yourself the way you want to, you can always have a chat with an advocate beforehand, and they could either join you or give you advice. An advocate is a person or organisation that you can engage with to help support you. It can be in a meeting, it can be just some advice, and it's an external voice that can help you to support your child through some tricky situations.
And we're going to do lots of prep, and we're going into this new school year. It might be a new school, might be new to schooling as well. And we give it a try, and maybe we all, you as the carer, parent, or as the team, think that might not be the best situation for the little person. Then, you can reach out to the regional officers as well. They're part of their responsibilities to finding the best schooling options.
Yep.
But we can also help you if you're looking for alternatives to school as well. Because, not everyone is going to suit a classroom style, and there's some different opportunities for education.
There is, and I think,
Definitely.
Even a school with all the best will in the world, there are some kids who it's just not going to work, that formal education. I'm the parent of one of those kids, 16 now, but had to take him out of school when he was 10 and has been homeschooled since. There are alternatives, and I know probably some people listening are like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about that. Well, don't think about it now if you don't have to. But there's a plan B option.
Yeah. I feel it's, not to make light of it, but I feel like it's finding the right pair of shoes. There's nothing worse than having to walk, or spend a night in a really, really uncomfortable pair of shoes. You want to find something that fits and that's comfortable and makes you happy, and you want to walk a fair distance.
Yeah.
Or
so you want to go to the disco and dance.
Exactly.
All night.
So, you want that for your child as well. You want them to be at a school where they're feeling comfortable, you feel comfortable, you're supported.
Absolutely.
And they can dance and have fun.
Yeah.
Like the comfy shoes.
Yeah, I love that. So, finally, We've shared many insights today on preparing for school. But before we wrap up, Pauline and Sharon, what is some pearls of wisdom or a takeaway that you'd like to share with families?
For me, hands down, it's you are the expert of your child. And this mantra goes right across so many contexts. But I think particularly in the school context, and this is slightly gendered as well. You're just a mum. But you are the expert of your child, and you absolutely have the right to be involved in the planning and decision making around. So, back to that IEP conversation, don't let anyone ever give you the impression that you're not the expert of your child. You are.
Word.
Great. I think for me it would be, just try your best to stay positive. I think our kids can pick up on our energy. If you can try and stay really positive and using that positive language around preparing for school and going back to school during the holidays and leading up. But if all doesn't go to plan, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. You're not alone. There's so many families that are dealing with and going through the same thing. Just try and stay positive and don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help or support if you need it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, ladies.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you for being our fabulous host.
Thank you. Thank you so much again. And to our listeners, we hope that these tips help you feel more prepared for the school year ahead. For links and resources mentioned in today's episode, check out the show notes. We would love you to stay tuned to our next episodes. If you don't want to miss out, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook or LinkedIn, or visit our website at kiind.com.au. If you have any questions, if you have any ideas for future episodes, if you would like to give us some feedback, if you would like to link in with one of us and have a one-on-one conversation about your child's education journey, you can email us at hello@kiind.com.au. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Bye.